Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of SEC State of Mind presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Taylor Davis, joined by Jason Campbell and a very special guest, people. We're finally talking some college football again. You know, Jay and I really try to cover all the other sports, but we're football through and through around here, and it's time to talk some SEC football. Who better to do it than one of the new coaches that we're going to be seeing this fall in the SEC, Florida Gators head coach, Jon Sumrall. Welcome in, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate y'all having me on. Hope all is well.
Likewise. It's a busy time for you. I know. I think we're on spring break, if I read the calendar correctly for you guys, but you've been in the thick of things for the month of March as you guys took the field for spring ball. But I'm going to go back in time a little bit because we talked a lot about the carousel that was a few months ago, but it was truly a bit of an unprecedented time for you personally as Tulane found themselves in the college football playoff, and you had accepted the opportunity to head down to Gainesville, but you had to finish what you started in New Orleans. Talk to me a little bit about that time for you handling both and ultimately trying to be everything in multiple places.
Yeah, a lot of sleepless nights, or maybe a couple hours of sleep here and there. Yeah, really felt like it was important as I was entertaining what could be next.
Yeah.
Job-wise, to make sure that I did not shortchange Tulane, that team, those young men that I was coaching there, and wanted to finish the job the right way. That was something that I'd made very clear to my administration at Tulane that I worked for.
Yeah.
And then anybody that was interested in having a conversation with me about their job openings, I said, look, if you want me to do this any other way than finish this way, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do it. I don't have it in me. I would have stayed at Tulane, to be quite honest with you, before taking another job where I couldn't finish it the right way. I was really torn for a few weeks there. We take the job on officially the Sunday after our last regular season game, then had to gear up, get ready for a conference championship game the following week while doing flying here for a media availability and a press conference, doing a signing day here where we signed 18 guys for Florida. We also signed 14 guys for Tulane. They didn't have a head coach name for the 2026 season. And so oversaw 2 signing days in the same week while we're getting ready to play a conference championship game against North Texas on a Friday night. So won that game, came back here, spent a few days here to kind of get some foundational things done staffing wise, and then flew back for the CFP process back at Tulane. But it was a whirlwind, to say the least. Something I'm glad I was able to do the right way on the way out. I think it's more important to leave the right way than even to, quite honestly, enter the right way. Totally. I think you have to leave a place on good terms and do it right by the people that you are around there.
Wow.
And Coach, I think from that, you ought to be applauded, right? You think about the state of college football nowadays where, sometimes it can seem like it's a whirlwind. Sometimes you think you got some stability, then all of a sudden, changes are made every single day. Unfortunately, I got a chance to play with some Florida Gators greats in the pros, Carlos Dunlap, Lewis Murphy. The Gators have put a lot of great players in the National Football League throughout the years. Like you said, going back and forth is extremely hard, but for you to stick it through with your team like you did to the end, I think those guys will remember that for the rest of their lives, that y'all still got a chance to share that moment together. Talk about what made Florida so special and why it's a unique opportunity, because you talk about recruiting the state of Florida. You're going against Miami, you're going against Florida State, and then there's Florida, all 3 great schools, right? And we grew up in an era where at one point in time, those schools was like, depending on what year they was in the national championship. What makes Florida a unique job?
Yeah, it's a good question, Jason. As a kid, I grew up in the state of Alabama, and to me, the SEC was the NFL growing up. Like I lived for the 11 a.m. Jefferson Pilot game that, Dave Baker covered, or whoever it was at the time. And those games were what I lived for, those Saturday mornings, watching SEC football. And so I sat in Legion Field in the early 90s and watched Coach Spurrier coach the Florida Gators against Alabama And in the pouring rain one time, I think I saw Jack Johnson maybe catch 3 touchdown passes. And so it was something that, the University of Florida has a unique history and tradition. I think the Swamp is like no place else. You've been here, you've seen the place. You walk into Ben Hill Griffin Stadium and you walk into the Swamp, and you don't have to guess where you're at. Like, it's not like, I could be maybe at this stadium or that stadium. It's like, no, you're at the Swamp. And so, and then really the passion of the fan base here, I think, matched sort of my wiring. The enthusiasm this place has for all their sports, but football in particular is something that I felt drawn to. And then going back to what you hit on with recruiting, if you can't recruit to the University of Florida, you're probably not a very good recruiter. Like, it's not real hard. Like, I've had to recruit to some jobs and I'm like, okay, how do we sell this? How do we make this cool? Or like, I'm like, man, we got like $100 million football facility. And we are in Gainesville, and we're an hour and a half from Orlando and a couple hours from Tampa. I'm sorry, we're hour and a half from Jacksonville, a couple hours from Tampa and Orlando, in the middle of a really cool college town that's passionate about their sports. And it's the 5th ranked public school in America right now, academically. Like, that's another component that I think sort of attracted me, was having been at Tulane most recently, which is a great academic school. Yeah. I thought having the opportunity to cast a vision to young people that there is still an academic component to what we do. Everybody doesn't, people don't realize, there's this thing called the transfer portal, NIL and rev share. We're still not the NFL yet. And you're still hopefully getting a degree at the end of this process so you can better yourself for the rest of your life. But a lot of things went into it. Feel really privileged and honored to be the head football coach here and wake up every day. Got to work this morning at like 5:20, and I walk in the door and I still kind of pinch myself. I'm like, man, I'm the head coach of the University of Florida. This is crazy.
Well, that's awesome. I actually just got back from Tulsa calling the SEC Gymnastics Championship that Florida brought home to Gainesville. And I've been privy to that fan base through success and struggle. And it's there. The support is there. The loyalty is there. And those fans are clamoring for Florida football to return to what it once was. And like you said, every resource imaginable there. You mentioned something about how you're wired. Now, I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I have had the privilege of being on the sidelines for ESPN for a few of your games as a head coach, first at Troy and at Tulane, and being able to watch your operation in game, it really stuck out to me. You're a true ball coach. Like, you exude passion, you exude intensity and toughness for the game and the players. And there's always a discipline element to your sideline operation, but your guys love you and they gravitate toward you. And I've seen you pull them in and lay into them, but then smack them on the helmet and send them off with like, I believe in you. And that balance in this day and age of college football, Jay and I talk about it all the time. This is a very hard time to find that balance of the discipline, toughness, but the relationship piece of it. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit with you, kind of your philosophy around that, around the role of a coach and the passion that you have both for game excellence, but also the relationship piece not faltering.
Well, I think relationships start with trust. And when you're coaching a player, you have to know their story. You have to know who they are. You have to know what they're about. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges walking into a job and being new. It's trying to maybe coach guys that you haven't recruited per se, or you didn't get to sit in their houses and get to know their families. And so, but you have to build that relationship through trust. And I'm authentic and genuine. Like, what you see is what you get. I'm not smart enough to have more than one personality. Like, I don't change. Like, I could be around our AD. I could be around maybe the preacher at church. Yeah. I could be in my backyard drinking a beer, hanging out with my wife. And I'm not changing for anybody. Yeah. And if you like it, great. And if you don't like it, I'm good. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm not. And so I think when you get around young people, they feel authenticity and they feel genuine behavior. And I really am I'm most passionate about investing in our players' lives, and serving them and developing them to be their best, and getting to know them. And like, one of the things that I think is great as a coach is like getting phone calls from former players about weddings or kids that are being born or whatever, and being asked to be at certain events. And you do life with each other when you do it the right way in this game. And so I don't feel like I go to work a day in my life. I do a job that's like kind of a hobby to me. And I started doing this making like $12,000 a year. And looking back, I thought I was the most blessed guy in the world then, and so love what I do. Very, very passionate about the details of the game and how we do it. Like, I do feel like it's important to be prepared for situational football and coach your guys on details, and be extremely demanding without being demeaning. And holding the standard ridiculously high, because when our players leave our program, they're going to go do something next, whether it be play professionally or have to go get a job or have a family or whatever it may be. And I want their experience around being in our programs to have equipped them to be better at whatever they take on that's next.
Yeah. No, that's great. When, I was looking at your schedule this year, and before I get to that part of it, you watched the game last night, right?
I did. Yeah.
My goodness.
Brutal.
Heartbroken
basketball fan. I'm sure you the same way. I seen you at a couple basketball games since you got the job at Florida and everything. Tough one for Florida. I had them picked in my bracket to go to play in the championship game against Arizona. So, but it's
a heartbreaker, man. I feel for Todd and his guys.
I know.
When I went through the process of taking this job, Todd and I spoke a couple of times in the lead up to me making a decision, and he and I have really hit it off and have a great deal of respect for him and how he's run his program and how they've gotten competitive the way they have and won at a high level. And I've been fortunate to get to sit courtside a handful of times, right next to him a couple of those times in games. And tough one last night. Hurt for those guys, man. I was at the game on Friday night against Prairie View A&M. Couldn't be there last night because we had meetings started this morning here in the facility at 6 a.m. and so I couldn't make it down to Tampa last night.
Yeah, it was a tough one. I was just like, man, that's basketball though, right? That's why they call it March Madness. We've seen a lot of crazy shots and everything. But my lead-up question is, Florida and Georgia never played each other on campus. And I know this year Jacksonville is renovating their stadium. So this year it's going to be at Mercedes-Benz, and then next year it's going to be in Tampa. Talk about the impact of that. Were y'all hoping to get on campus games, or are y'all okay with playing in Mercedes and playing in Tampa?
Yeah, I think the history of that game is a neutral site. And so I feel like it makes sense to keep it off campus to some degree. I'm in general, if you say on campus or off campus for football games, I'm an on campus guy.
Right.
That's my preference. But the history of that game is different. And so, it's been played in that nature for so long that I think it's almost just understood in the expectation. And it'll be unique with it being out of Jacksonville the next 2 years, in Atlanta this year, and then Tampa the following before we return to Jacksonville. But I'm excited about being a part of that game, man. I got a lot of respect for their program and what they've accomplished over its history. But most recently, they've been one of the best programs in college football. And we got our work cut out for us to do what we need to do to play at a level where we're capable of being in those conversations with teams like that right now.
The schedule has been a point of conversation the past couple years at Florida because it has truly been a gauntlet. Obviously, you're going to get that every year in the SEC, but even some of the out-of-conference competition that has been on that schedule has been substantial. An element that, of course, is one of the biggest pieces to fall in the coaching change is your staff that you assemble. And I wanted to ask you about it as you guys will attack season together. Buster Faulkner and Brad White. Let me just say, as someone who has covered a variety of coaches, this staff, I have so much respect for the three of you. And when I saw that that group come together, I was like, holy cow, like that is just such a good formula and combination of football minds. And I've been around all of it. What were your priorities in assembling your staff, and ultimately what made Coach Faulkner and Coach White the right pieces behind you?
Yeah, I think every job is unique when you put a staff together. You know, when I was head coach at Troy, that staff had a certain group of collection of people that fit Troy. Right. And then some of those people went with me from Troy to Tulane. And then at Tulane, I maybe added a few people to the staff that weren't a part of what we did at Troy, because I was at a little bit more resource program to go add certain people to the staff. And then you take a job like Florida and it's like, all right, how do we build an all-star staff? How do you get the absolute best of the best across the country? So I did bring both of my coordinators from Tulane, Joe Craddock and Greg Gasparotto, who are freaking big-time football coaches, as position coaches. Yeah. And so now I've got, you know, a guy coaching the quarterbacks exclusively and Coach Craddock, and a guy coaching the linebackers and Greg, that have coordinated the last handful of years for me. That's awesome. That are coordinator thinkers. Right. And then you're able to add a Buster and a Brad, who both of whom I've known for a while. Brad and I worked together for 3 years at Kentucky. And he's coordinated at the SEC level and done a really good job over the last several years for Mark Stoops. And then Buster's somebody I've kind of had on my radar going back for a while, even before I became a head coach. I've always sort of respected Buster and how he's evolved as an offensive coordinator and a play caller. You know, he's got more of an air raid background, being around Chris Hatcher and that Mike Leach system. Was the quarterback coach at Georgia around a little bit more of a pro style-ish system, if you will, and then went to Georgia Tech and evolved again based upon who the quarterback was in Haynes King, and really became more of a run game quarterback driven offense, which is not what he had done previously ever. Yeah. And then on top of, you talk about not just the football component, but I'm a firm believer you have to hire great people. Yeah. There's a threshold of knowledge that you have to be able to coach this level. But I don't want to be around people every day that I don't enjoy coaching with. I walk in the staff room and I've got all those guys around me daily, and it makes what we do here in the office fun. We're here a lot together. You know, a piece of advice I got from Bronco Mendenhall several years ago, right when I became a head coach. Bronco and I spoke, and he said, I'll give you one piece of advice. Hire people you're okay spending 18 hours a day with, because that's what you're going to be doing. And so I was like, that's a great point. I never really thought about it like that. Yeah. But you want to hire people that are good at their job, but also good people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important, right? You know, you talk about getting to work at 5:30 in the morning, and maybe some nights you're going to go home to midnight. You know, just be honest, during the season, then you talk about you really spend a lot of time where a lot of these guys become your family. You know, you played the game, you played at Kentucky, and you understand what it's like in that locker room. You know, it's no different in the coaching staff. You know, it's guys lacing it up together and, hey, you got my back, I got your back mentality. When you think about getting Buster Faulkner, I thought that was a big get for you guys. Yeah. One, his offense has been top 5 nationally last 2 years. He knows how to adapt and change. The other part of it is he brought one of his young quarterbacks with him. You know, that's huge, especially when I look at your guys' roster from a quarterback perspective. It's not a lot of experience there, but you got a guy that's familiar with his offense. I think it's Philo or Philo. I'm not sure how y'all pronounce it.
Yeah, it's Philo. Yeah. Some people are afraid to pronounce Philo, just call him AP. But yeah.
That's safe.
Yeah, I was looking, I said, is it Philo or Philo? But I'm going with Philo.
There you go.
But you talk about a guy that knows his system. But then the biggest get to me as well, Eric Singleton, you know, transferred from Georgia Tech to Auburn. And this year he goes from Auburn back to his offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner. So he's there to help teach the guys a system. But then also there's Marcus Davis there, you know, who just coached Eric Singleton a year ago. So when you think about the continuity, you know, even though people come from different places, there's some continuity within all of it. And a lot of you guys are young. Shoot, we just started talking before the show. Like, we're both in our early 40s. But it seemed like we played forever ago. And you talk about the staff that you assimilated. You got youth, you got some veteran guys. But when you look at your team as a whole this year, as you start your spring practice, what are you looking for out of your quarterbacks? You know, what are you looking for from a leadership standpoint? And that receiver room got to play big for those young quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, you played the position. You know what it takes. I mean, there's arm talent that matters to some degree. You have to be able to throw the football, but throwing the football, there are guys that are great passers of the football that aren't great quarterbacks. You have to be able to see the game. You got to be able to identify what's going on around you. You have to be able to communicate and lead at a high level. I think the intangibles component at the quarterback position can't be overstated. And guys believing in you and wanting to go play with you and for you and rallying behind what you're trying to get them to do is such a critical part of that position. We want guys that are going to protect the football. I want every drive to end in a kick, whether it be a field goal, extra point, or a punt. I don't want a lot of interceptions. And so, but Philo, we're excited to have Philo here. The familiarity with the system with Buster is great. Tramell Jones, another young quarterback we have in the room. We're excited about Tramell, man. He's been fun to watch his development so far this offseason. And you brought up Eric. Eric's a unique one. His first scholarship offer in high school was from Troy when I was the head coach there.
Wow.
No way.
And then he started popping track times his junior year. Yep. And Georgia Tech and a bunch of other schools came and offered, and I realized we weren't going to get him at Troy. And so he went to Georgia Tech, played for Buster and Trent McKnight, who's also helping coach on our offensive staff. Then obviously transferred and played with Marcus as his position coach, which Marcus has been a fantastic addition to this staff.
Yeah.
Really good football coach. Got a young coach. He's got a bright future, man. And so when he was declaring for the draft and had already been invited to play in the Senior Bowl and then made the decision to maybe look at returning and entered the portal and returning to college, and we started to figure out, could it be a fit here? There was a whole lot of familiar faces for E here.
Yeah.
With myself having recruited him years ago, Buster, Trent, and Marcus all having coached him. And then he knew Philo too. Yeah. And so there was sort of a lot of connectivity there that made it a natural fit for E to be here. He's been so fun to be around, man. He works his tail off, ridiculously low maintenance. You've been around the game a long time, Jason. You've seen some high talent receivers that are high maintenance. Okay. Eric, man, he's a high talent kid who just kind of puts his head down and works. Like he's almost like at times, like I'm like, you forget he may even be in the room because he just is an easygoing guy that just puts the work in. And so
the opportunity.
Yeah, like he's awesome, man. So excited about what he's doing. We do need E and that receiver room to step up and help our quarterback, whoever it may be. Vernell Brown III is a big time player. Dallas Wilson is a big time player. We got a lot of other guys in that room that I'm excited about the direction they're headed, whether it be Bailey Stockton or Micah Mays or TJ Abrams. There's a lot of good players in that room that I think are going to make our quarterback's job and life a lot easier.
I'm sure they will all appreciate that. No doubt about it. Well, I know we're running low on time with you, Coach. You're a busy guy, but you're going to end spring ball with the game, the orange and blue game, April 11th. Obviously excited to see a little bit of a sample size, but Jay always talks about the importance of summer workouts, the importance of these guys competing year-round with one another, building chemistry with one another. I've heard about the gauntlet that you guys have been doing, breeding competition early on, and then, of course, fall camp will carry a lot of weight. But as we all wait for the 2026 season to approach, what is important to you that Florida football carries in terms of identity?
Well, we want to compete every day. I mean, that's part of why we do the gauntlet. Like I'm a big believer in constant competition. And you get what you earn in this game. Like I tell players all the time, I don't decide who starts, they do. Like by how they play, how they practice, how they prepare, how they impact the team. Are they a force multiplier? They make a lot of other people around them better, or are they just impacting themselves only? And so I want to see our team really continue to elevate individually. I want each individual player to maximize who they're becoming on the field and off the field as a player. And then as we build our systems, us to build, around our best players. Yeah. And this is a player-driven game. It's not about coaches. my family comes to every game. They don't come to watch me coach. They come to watch our players play. And it's a player-driven game. We're a player-driven program. We want to build everything we do around our players. And so continue to evolve our schematics around what's going to put our best people in the position to have success and create advantages for the University of Florida football. But I'm excited about the direction we're headed. We have a ton of work to do. At times I look up, I'm like, all right, this is a daunting task a little bit, but it's invigorating. It excites you. It really gets you fired up about taking on each day to make sure that we're doing everything we can to position ourselves to be successful.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Coach, before we let you get out of here, my thing is, I got 2 questions for you. One, did you really almost get bit by a gator?
Okay, that video was hilarious.
All right, so yeah, well, it's funny. So I found out that I had that photo deal from my wife. It was on my schedule. I didn't really know what it was. On my phone, they put my calendar on my phone. I don't know how to do all that, but somebody does it for me. And so I see I've got like this photo shoot. It's like this gator photo shoot. I'm like, what is this? And my wife tells me, well, you're doing like a video thing with an alligator tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon or whatever. I'm like, what? And so I'm thinking we're talking about like a foot long, taped mouth shut, like baby alligator. And I get there and it's a 7-foot alligator. Her name was Helena. And as I got around it though, I started to like let my guard down. I got a little bit more comfortable, And I'm like 4 or 5 feet away. And then she sort of like hisses a little and then like snaps really suddenly my direction. I'm like, whoa. Like, this is not okay. So I thought I was going to end up like Chubbs from Happy Gilmore and be with a fake hand, but survived.
Yeah, I was like, man, like you can't turn Coach into gator bait, man.
No, it was definitely quite the experience.
I bet.
Not something I've done anywhere else. We're one of the few places. I don't know of any other place that has the Gators as the mascot. I've never heard of any other place. I'm not saying like college, pro. Yeah, there might be some high schools or something. But we are unique in the regards that we're the Gators.
Yeah, y'all have a live gator. I think the only other part I've seen a live one is the live tiger that LSU has. I think.
Yeah. And the buffalo. There's a few.
Buffalo in Colorado.
Yeah.
So there's a couple unique ones. My last one, Will Hall. I know Will very well. Born in Mississippi. We both had a chance to play in the same state. And Nutra friends, small world. Will takes over for Tulane. Just tell everybody what they should expect at Tulane from Will.
Yeah, Will's a phenomenal person. Got to know him really well. Knew of Will, had interactions with Will several years ago, but got to really know him much greater when I was head coach at Troy and he was head coach at Southern Miss. And then took the job at Tulane, was able to have him come hang around during his transition from his last job prior to rejoining the staff at Tulane because he had been there with Coach Fritz previously as the offensive coordinator. So added him to the staff last year. He was awesome. Really good guy, smart football mind, detailed thinker, great energy, positive outlook. Will's one of those guys like, I'm very much a realist. Like I see the good and the bad to all the situations. Will has got a little bit of like Ted Lasso in him where everything's always good, man. Like there's no like everything's positive. I'm like,
he can wear a suit in 95 degree heat. He gonna have a suit and tie on. I'm like, bro.
Oh, there's no doubt. Hey, look. I'm kind of like I'm probably got some NFL-ish in my nature. Like you can tell, I'm wearing like a dry fit and shorts right now. Like I'm not. If you catch me in a tie, like somebody's getting married or buried, but Will rock that tie on the sideline at Southern Miss, and I'd be over there wearing like a t-shirt, like coaching football. Because I'm like, I got part of why I got into football coaching is because I don't want to sit behind a desk and wear a tie all day.
That's fair.
But Will's great. He'll do a great job at Tulane, man. That's a special place. What a cool place to have an opportunity to coach. And Will, I'm excited to see what he does that program and have success and continue to build upon what's been created there. I have no doubt he's going to do a fantastic job.
That's awesome. That also reminded me, another interesting element of this past year was the American Conference to SEC pipeline seemed pretty substantial with yourself, Coach Silverfield, and Coach Golish all in the same year going from the American to the SEC. Were y'all chatting at all during that time period after the announcements? Like, hey, see you guys again this year.
Yeah, all great guys. Known all of them differently, but being in the league with them all together, those two, and really wasn't to the SEC, but the other one I had a great deal of respect for, Eric Morris. With Oklahoma State. All those guys, I'm happy for their success. I would pull for them as long as we weren't playing them in the American. I'll do the same now that we're in a different league. As long as they're not playing us, I'm fans of all those guys. Got a lot of respect for every one of them, and great friendships with both those guys that are now in this league with me.
Pretty cool. Definitely a testament to the American Conference that just continues to get stronger every single year. And of course, a testament to the job that all of you have done. Coach Sumrall, thank you so much for joining us on SEC State of Mind. So excited to see what you do for the Florida Gators come August.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Go Gators.
If Lewis Murphy try to come down there, which he will, lock the door. Tell you. No, he's not allowed to come in yet.
I mean, he did a lot for that program, so he might be allowed. But
that's right.
Best of luck, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Huge thank you to Coach Sumrall for taking the time to come on and chat with us. I have been pretty vocal about Coach Sumrall, like I said, having covered him in his previous 2 stops and just really seeing very early that this guy was so passionate about the game. There was no way he wasn't going to climb in the ranks. And so now to see him not only in the SEC, but a really storied program like Florida, and he's at the helm, I'm super pumped to see what that program becomes under him.
Yeah, most definitely. You think about the overall, coaching search for all these schools that came up this past fall. You talk about Kentucky. That's where he played at, right? Auburn, his wife went to Auburn. You talk about Florida, a unique opportunity, right? Because it removes the pressure of both the other two.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and don't even forget when the Lane Kiffin thing was still in question, LSU was looking at him because he was down the road in New Orleans. So he was on everyone's radar.
So you talk about him, and you talk about, Coach Morrison went to Oklahoma State. You talk about Coach Golish, pursued by Arkansas, Penn State, and then he ends up at Auburn. Missing one more American coach, that
Coach Silverfield at Arkansas.
Silverfield went to Arkansas, right? So great job he did at Memphis. Then all of a sudden he's getting highly pursued and he ends up at Arkansas. So it begs the thing to say this year on the schedule, they all face each other.
It's gonna be
right?
crazy.
Oklahoma State, but the rest of the 3 face each other.
Yeah.
The familiarity that they have with one another. But then the fact that I'm sure at midfield when they all see each other pregame, they're going to look at each other and say, can you believe this?
This is crazy.
We were all just a year ago coaching another conference, and now here we are in what's considered top 2 conference in all of college football. Like it's your dream job, right, to coach in the SEC.
Totally.
And you can hear it in Coach Sumrall's voice, but you could also hear what you see a lot of coaches are starting to do nationally. Is find continuity, amongst your staff, because the way the kids transfer nowadays, you need to have continuity where everyone's operating on the same page. If I can't get in touch with you, you know what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
you should take a guy and not take a guy. So it's that type of continuity which he talked about when he hired his guys, his coordinators. And think about this, though, Taylor, how great it is that your coordinators that was with him at Tulane, basically went from coordinator to position coaches.
So cool.
So a lot of coaches would say, my ego, not there, not going to do that. Those guys kind of tune their ego down to be a part of a program that ultimately they know, hey, if I do great at my position, coach, I've been a coordinator before. Guess what? That step is right back to a coordinator job at this level. But it goes to show you the willingness to learn first before just gravitating and taking that type of job as a coordinator in the SEC or something. And I'm sure I could do it, but to take a back seat a little bit and say, I want to learn from some of the other guys before taking that step.
Well, it's also a testament to Coach Sumrall, because I don't think they would do that for just anybody. It's a testament that they believe in what he's doing and how he's going to make things happen and want to be a part of that as well. So I'm super excited to see how that one fares. And like I said, at the end of that interview, their spring game will be on April 11th. So that will be the end of their spring practice. The guys are on spring break right now, and then we'll have the first couple weeks of April. So we'll continue to pay attention as it does seem like Aaron Philo has a little bit of a leg up given the familiarity with Buster Faulkner's system, but it is very much a quarterback battle. And Coach Sumrall says he doesn't expect to know anything even by fall camp. Like, he is very much creating an environment of competition, and guys are not being told they are given anything. They're earning every bit of it. So very excited to follow that story into the summer and, of course, fall camp. So as we close the conversation around college football for today, quick little recap of my weekend, because like I alluded to with Coach Sumrall, I was on the call for the SEC Gymnastics Championship, which happened this past weekend. And guys, it delivered. Let me just tell you, my head is still spinning. Like I said last week, it wasn't just the top 4 teams in the SEC competing in that night session. Top 4 teams in the country, 1 through 4, head to head, same floor. It was intense. The lead changed after every rotation. It was awesome. And Florida ultimately got the win by 0.025, y'all. It's like the smallest margin imaginable for the scoring system at SEC Championship. Just behind them was Oklahoma, followed by LSU at 3rd. So those top 3 really battled it out. We're kind of neck and neck, the majority of it. The pendulum was swinging. And speaking of swinging, Florida closed on bars and put up a ridiculous bar rotation to clinch it. Selena Harris-Miranda with a perfect 10 on bars. It was electric. So huge congratulations to the Florida Gators for getting that title. And the selection show was this morning, so we now know where all of the SEC teams are headed. All SEC teams will compete in regionals. 2 of the SEC teams are actually hosting regionals. LSU is a host, and Kentucky is a host. Kentucky is a 16 seed, LSU 2 seed, but there will be a lot of regional action happening in both Baton Rouge and Lexington the first weekend of April. So if you are in either of those towns, make sure you go support. Regional format is phenomenal. There will be 8 teams that are there, and then you get down to 4 for the regional final 2 days later. 2 teams from each location. There are 4 locations, 2 teams out of each will move on to the national championship. So super excited for that and what's to come in postseason for NCAA gymnastics. Jay is going to give us a little bit of a March Madness update. Let's hear it.
Yeah, March Madness, looking about like my hair right now. I need to
What?
The madness with my hair right now. I need a haircut. It's been madness, Taylor. I hadn't had a chance to get a haircut. So
my God.
Got a lot going on up here. But
Looking
I tell
great.
you what, some of the craziest shots, right? Kentucky banking one in to send it to overtime
That was nuts.
in their first round game. You think about Vanderbilt going in and out, happened twice to them this year in games. But then you talk about Tennessee, going to the Sweet 16, Alabama finding a way to go to the Sweet 16 after losing Aiden Holloway.
Yep.
You still think about Florida. That's a shocker, right? Shocker. They're out of it. Like, that game was crazy within itself. But March Madness is full force, and there's teams that still fighting. Arkansas, the guy Acuff is tough. He's probably gonna be a top 3 draft pick. Can play the point guard, hit over 30-some points in his last game. So I think the SEC has been well represented. We knew it was a tough conference all year. And like I said, some of the losses that happened has been tough losses. Missouri lost in a tough game as well in the first round, but most teams have showed up and in capacity. And then you think about the women's side of it. You still got Texas, you still got South Carolina, still got LSU, like blowing doors off people. I'm not just talking about average game; they're blowing doors off people.
Yeah.
So you're talking about that could end up being a possibly Final Four. 2 could be from the SEC, or maybe 3.
That's crazy.
What it is. So it's just crazy within itself. So March Madness is full of force. You talk about baseball, Auburn and Texas top 5 matchup this past weekend in baseball.
Walk it off.
Yeah, like it's crazy that you still got Mississippi State and Arkansas ranked in the top 10 in baseball. I believe there's one more I'm probably missing, but it's about to be a wild March.
I agree.
A really wild
in April.
March. In April, and everyone still want to talk about football.
I can't help it.
It never sleeps. It never sleeps
help
because there's so much going on in college football during springtime.
Yeah, I know.
And I think they came out with one more rule change about targeting. So now it doesn't carry over to the next game,
which is good.
Which is good.
Unless like you get into like repeat offenses, which there's like a addendum for that.
You get like, I think it's triple offenses or double. But the biggest thing, I was hoping they said you get a 15-yard penalty the first time and you may have to sit out a quarter, and then you still can come back in the same game. Like they're still getting one mistake, you're out the entire game. I still don't like that rule because in the NFL, they don't carry that rule, right?
Yeah.
Like, you carry a fine in the NFL. In college, I think it should come as a sit out, but it is what it is. Hopefully they still revisit it, but they're trying to do everything they can to protect the game. But what an exciting time. Great weekend. Look forward to seeing what happens over the next couple of weeks with March Madness.
100%. We're also getting very close to the NFL draft, so we'll get you all ready for that. A lot of SEC guys that are hoping to hear their names called come April in Pittsburgh. So the closer we get to that, we'll also give you a lot of NFL draft previews, certain teams looking for certain things, who we think maybe could fit that mold. So a lot of exciting things ahead. I will also tease that Coach Sumrall isn't the only football coach that we've got scheduled. So make sure you hang with us. We've got some more in the pipeline that's coming out soon. But again, massive shout out to Coach Sumrall for giving us some of his time today. That was super cool to hear from him. So that's going to do it for us on this episode of SEC.
One question for you though, Taylor.
Okay. Yep. I was
visit all these. You visit all these places.
Yeah.
And everything, but you never talk about food.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
You go to all these places, you give us no
opportunity
to know about
I'll
food.
give you one guess what college town I go to, and just my diet is gone.
See, that's Baton Rouge.
Duh. Like, come on.
Like,
I eat my weight in crawfish this time of year.
I'm talking about I need some pizza. Like, what's my best pizza? Where's my where's my best steak? Like
you can get a good I've actually had good steak in Oklahoma.
Okay.
In Norman. Pizza, I don't know. We end up just like ordering very basic pizza, so I can't really give an arrangement on that. Gainesville has some good spots downtown, but I mean, like, I'm just so Baton Rouge is top tier to me when it comes to food. You just have it all there. So
I knew it. And
sorry.
This year, Georgia and Florida plays in Mercedes-Benz, and the next year in Tampa.
Yeah.
What is one rivalry in college football, in the SEC especially, that you would like to see at a neutral site?
You know what? I think with some of the changes to rivalry week since we added Texas and Oklahoma, and again, I'm like Coach Sumrall, like the best part of college football are like the stadiums, the environment. So taking away from any of that, I don't love. But I do think that the Arkansas LSU rivalry has always had such history. And since that got taken out of rivalry week, if I'm not mistaken, that's earlier in the year, but they still have the boot trophy, and it's still like a really big thing to people that live in that area. I don't know, maybe if that was at the Superdome every year or something, which obviously that's way more advantageous for LSU than it would be Arkansas. So maybe at the Superdome and then the next year somewhere closer to Arkansas. I think a neutral site for that one, since it isn't hyped up as a rivalry game anymore, it's not part of rivalry week, there could be something cool to do with that and make it a neutral site. But I also love those they're not really becoming rivalries because they can't be, but the Chick-fil-A kickoff game to start the year in Mercedes-Benz, if any of those could start to become quote unquote rivalries, whether it's LSU Clemson or Auburn Baylor, some of those like new out of conference ones that we've started to do, maybe neutral sites for those. But 99.9% of the time, I'm going to tell you, keep them on campus.
Yeah, on campus is awesome, right? You get the real feel, but if you haven't been to the cocktail party, it is fun.
It is fun.
If there's one that I would really like that's not in the SEC, I wish Notre Dame and USC played at a neutral site.
Oh, no, that'd be cool.
You know, I think that would be fun to see a Notre Dame and USC in a neutral site. When it comes to the SEC, outside of Georgia, Florida playing neutral site, maybe LSU and Alabama.
Yeah.
I could see being on a neutral site, but other than that, though, I like them on campus. But
keep them on campus.
We'll see.
Like if they ever tried to say the Iron Bowl is going to move to Atlanta, I'd be like, get the frick out of here. Like, there's just the experience is tied to the place. So
it's history. It's
history. Yeah. I like them on campus, but fun conversation. Let us know in the comments if you like neutral site games for any rivalries. But okay, I'm going to get back into my clothes if you're good with that. You good?
Oh, my bad. That's typically what men do, so I'm just
love your random questions. Let me just get back in. Thank you for listening to us on this episode of SEC State of Mind presented by FanDuel. As always, you can catch us wherever you get your podcasts. That's the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, iHeart, Believe, you name it. You can find us anywhere you want to listen to us. If you prefer to watch, we are on Believe's YouTube channel that is spelled BLEAV. You can search SEC State of Mind. We've got an entire playlist on YouTube that has every single episode that we've done, even back when we were an Auburn only podcast. So if you just need some content, we got you covered there. Come on back next week. We've got a lot more action planned in the weeks to come. And until then, peace out.
Peace.